Hey folks, Sean McCormick here, and in this video I'm going to show you how quick and easy it is to actually create a website using Lightroom. Here I have a selection of images that I'm going to create into a basic website. It can be any amount of images. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag different types of images together so that they're all together, so that we have similar types. So I'm just going to grab a load of landscape images in together. Now you can obviously put them in order as you're doing them, the order that you would want to appear in the website. 9, 10, okay, and then I have kind of some images of girls which I'm going to put together here. So drop these images of the bands and guys out here. No guys there, and that's a guy, and so that gives us, should give us another 10 images. Should have another pretty girl to put in there. Okay, and then towards the end then we have some kind of mixes of guys and stuff like that. Actually, there we go, that's another girl image. So it's 11 then images of the girls, and then there's another few images, general images. Okay, so this is the kind of order. So I know then that I'm going to have 3 galleries. So there's going to be landscapes, there's going to be kind of faces, and then there's going to be kind of general people stuff. So I have 29 images. So I know that they're going to be split into 10, 11, and then whatever's left over, which is 8. So go to Web, and then I'm going to go to LRB Portfolio. Okay, so this is what the very basic design looks like when you come to it first. There are some templates there as well that we can use, just to give ideas. To start with, gallery index, which just will have the first the different galleries that are in it. You have black, blue, kind of browns and stuff like that. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go for the black for a second. The black will make it a very useful starting point. We can start from any particular image we wanted as well. So what we're going to do is I'd say the quickest thing to start with is our color scheme. And so we're going to jump down here to the color palette. This is where all the colors are. And I'm just going to approach this first because it's going to just give us our overall look initially. What I'm going to do for this is I'm going to go for a simpler look again. I'm going to go for white. So there's our white body, and then our text is going to need to be black. Image area color will be black as well, and the menu one, which I noticed down here, is menu background, I'm going to be white as well. Now I have an option here as well. I do have an image area border color here, which is these lines, which I can opt to have as white, which will make them invisible, or I can just leave them in. I think I'll actually leave them in for now. Of course, then I can change the colors as well, so that the hover, stuff like that changes too. But I think they're going to be okay for here. Now for now, the only thing is I just might want to change the visitor link so it's not white. That way it's still visible after you visit. And now because of the way Lightroom works, you can't actually see the visited link until it's exported. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on positions of things. So I'm going to come down to the appearance. I'm going to deal with stuff in the appearance first before I actually go back and physically start laying out the things in the galleries and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to put the identity plate here, which is now was nice originally, but isn't so much anymore. I need to go for a different one. Here's one that I have that has a black logo from earlier. It's just literally selected the same way as you do anything. You would come down here to edit, and that would bring up the identity plate, and then you would choose the type of identity plate you want. It's as simple as that. In this case, it has a web or a mail link, which is in this case is index, which means that it'll always bring you back to the home page. And you can also put in text in here as well. This is useful for search engine optimization. So I'm just going to put in my name, Sean McCormick, photographer, photo, photographer, Galway, Ireland, headshot. Yes, it's all SEO. Fashion. These are just things that you would put in for that. Okay. Identity plate, I want to be centered. Okay. Now, if you have a situation whereby you have a very tight identity plate, so it's right in the edges or stuff like that, we use the ID offset to be able to push it backwards and forwards and give it a little bit of a movement around. It's okay here. I don't need to do that. The logo position can be on the top or on the bottom. I'm just going to show you that for a second briefly. But I want it on the top. The menu can also be aligned as well. Again, I want this in the center, and I actually want it to go down below, under. Now, if I'm going to throw it back up top for a second here, just to show you this. Let's say, for example, that I had the menu on the right, and I had the logo on the left. The offset allows me to bring this up and down. Now you can see we're actually blocking a background image, so you could actually have the menu just above your logo, for example, if you want it like that, but that isn't what I want here. So 0, and I'm going to put logo back in the center and menu in the center, and I want the logo underneath. Okay, so that's my basic layout started. I actually want to limit the width of this as well, so I'm just going to jump down to the bottom for a second. And I'm going to limit this to, like, a standard size would be 960, but I'm probably going to make it slightly wider than that, and I'll show you why. Because we're just literally clipping the edge of where the image is here, and I think that I might just want a tiny little bit more, but 960 is a standard width. So I'm actually going to put 1000. Again, 1000 may be a little bit too much because we're coming very close to the edge here. I think it's okay though. So the top gap, like the gallery thumbs is if you have an index page with gallery thumbs, it's how wide the actual image is. We will come back to that. The top gap is if you want to move the image down or move the gallery down on the page. In this case, I'm going to leave it at the top. The text width area is this area here. The gallery text width is if you're using a non-scrolling gallery, as in a manual scroll gallery. You can have a text at the start of it, and padding then is just the gap between each image. You can have a photo border on each image, and the color is set up in the color palette here. So that's basically the appearance stuff, right? So that is between the color palette and the appearance. You set the basic look of your website. So now that our layout is decided and our look is decided, I'm going to go for the actual pages themselves. Now we're on, each time we've been looking at the stuff, we've actually been on a particular page, which is the home page, and we can see that we have an image set here. Now there are different settings inside it that influence what's going on, and there are some default settings which might seem a bit odd. Like if I click on the about page and the contact page, you can see that they're identical. The image is identical. The reason for that is just generally speaking, when people come in, they have one image selected, and it's just to make it easier so there's no mistakes. Down here you have use all film strip photos, but if you use all selected photos and I had different images selected in the actual base template, you'd start getting errors, which I don't really want people seeing errors, because even though I've trapped a lot of the errors, people will say, oh, what's all this, this is wrong. Just trying to work around some stuff that Lightroom does and doesn't do. Technically speaking, Lightroom doesn't let you make websites using one set of image, but we've worked around that. So let's start off. First thing I'm just going to mention very quickly here is the character set. The character set just lets you decide what type of characters here. If you were putting in French or Scandinavian characters, something like that, UTF-8 might be a better choice. Just to mention that very, very briefly. Okay. So here we are with the home page, which is the page we're on, and we're going to customize this. Right, show homepage link is this link here. That's if you want to decide to have that in or not, because obviously we've already set up the identity plate to do that. The other thing is you can decide to have text on the page or not. You might just want an image. So some people have asked for that, that's why that is there. And then we have three types of homepage. We have this type of homepage here that you can see, right? You can have a gallery index, right, which is whatever galleries you've decided. Now we have 3 galleries ticked here. Now again, I've explained the reason why it's just one image. It's just at the start there needs to be one image. Now you can turn off the homepage text here as well, and that will give you longer images to view. This is again your choice. And then finally, first gallery. So what happens then is that gallery 1 then becomes the home page. Okay, now we can see we've got a little scrolling motion going on there. That's from the type of gallery that we're using here. It's called C motion, but we'll deal with that further on. Okay, let's say we're going to go with a gallery index, and so we come back to this now. The first thing we're going to do is home. I'm absolutely happy with having home written there, and site title can be changed here. In this case, what you can use it for is you can you could use it for, say, whatever, award-winning photographer. Okay, and then you could do that, and you could say based in, and what I'm thinking here is in terms of is in keywords. Go away, Sean McCormack is an etc, etc. You know, just to give you an idea of what you would write in there. Now we can see that we've actually typed that in manually there as well, but you can also type it in the boxes. Now just something I'm going to mention very quickly here that's through for all of the pages is, if I need to put in a new line, it's actually the easiest way to do that is to use a little bit of HTML. So I'm just going to teach you a tiny bit of HTML. So you go left angle bracket, which is above the comma, and you type in BR, which is short for break, a space, a /, and then you would close the angle bracket with a right one, which is above the full stop or the period. Now if I press tab to enter that, we can see that we've created a new line. Now in this case our text is actually too long for there. It's only really designed to be a very, very short amount of text on the home page, but you fit more obviously on the about page and things like that. But that's just to let you know that that is how you would do that. The home page number here is just the image if you were not on a gallery index page, and we could see that we have and copy Sean McCormack, right? And copy is the HTML for this little symbol here for copyright, and this literally is what's in that. Again, you can double click on that and you can manually change it there. So that is the basics of the home page. Now there is one other thing that we did mention, and that's the width of these images, and that is down in the appearance. So if we come to appearance here, we can see if we change that to 200, we can see we get a different size. Okay, so that is the start of the home page. So the next thing that we're probably going to look at is the about page. So let's have a look at the actual about page itself by literally clicking on about. Each time you want to look at something you're working on, it's a good idea to actually press that in the menu so you can see what the preview is doing. So we click about. So there's a couple of things we can see that are different. We can see that we have the image as before, and we have a bit of text, and we have a little picture of beautiful old me from a few years ago, shot by David Hobby. Thank you, David Hobby. So this is the about page. Now you can opt to have an about page, you will include about page, and that'll make it go away. Now because we've been previewing the page, it's still visible, but normally it wouldn't even be generated when you're exporting. So the next thing we can do is select a different number. So we're just going to type in the number 2. You don't need to type in a dot or a .00. That's something that Lightroom just tends to do for whatever reason of its own. So here's a different image in. Now we have the headline about me, so we could type in, say, bio for example, and whatever the text that you want to put in there is. Again, like I said, if you want to put in that break space thing, if you put in the second one like this, and then I put in more text, we can see that it puts in a space as well, so that allows you to create paragraphs as well. You can choose to use this avatar or not, and again you can put in your own image obviously. The idea is that you put it in the resources folder as explained. I've mentioned that before on YouTube, on the Lightroom blog channel on YouTube. There's a video on using the resources folder to put in the images. That is where you put it, and the name of the about page would be what if it appears in the menu. So we could type in bio there for example if you wanted. And here's another feature as well that is true of most pages. You can change the name of the page. It doesn't have to be about, and it can be anything. So I could change this to bio.html or bio.htm. You do have to have the .html or the .htm logo, file names rather, on the end, so that the gallery or your browser knows that it is a page and knows exactly what to do with it. Well, now that we've started looking at the blank page, we may as well go through a little bit of detail about the blank page. Now at 2.7 I have this, I'm just going to click on blank page in the menu again to go to it. I have use iframe, and what iframe does is it just lets you create a page basically called frame.html, or you can link to another framed. And the idea being that if you have an off-site client gallery, things like that, you could just enter a link to that page and then it will show up inside this page. It is very, 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 very basic. It's literally only just come in Portfolio 2.7. The idea is just that it's basically a trial to set up to just check that this kind of thing can work, because it can be used for other stuff in the future. That's just letting you know that that exists. Okay, and now of course, because I've done that, I need to go back, so I need to reload, and so press the stop and that will reload and jump into blank page again. So now you know how to do that if it happens to you. Okay, show right side text will get rid of the image. Just if you want to put text in here as well, if you need two sets of text, that's really what that's for. Again, the image here can be chosen to be something else. We could say select image 4, put in image 4. Right, so I appear to have that in twice. Excellent. I found a bug in my own software. That's okay, it shall be fixed again. Blank page headline again, same story. You can, so you could have it as, say, pricing, for example, or whatever. And then you could put in a list of prices. Headshots, etc., etc., whatever. Again, I've already explained how you can do the new line and things like that. This one has 2 paragraphs already built into it, just for people who want 2 paragraphs quickly. Again, the blank page is what appears in here, so that could be pricing, and then you could change this to pricing as well, because it looks kind of silly if the word blank appears in people's browsers. So that would be the first of the blank pages. Okay, so you can come down to the second blank page, which has basically got exactly the same set of settings, except it doesn't have the iframe. And I do have this text in yellow saying blank 2 can be a copyright page. Tick include, untick show in menu, finally tick link copyright to blank 2. That basically just says, yeah, first of all, you tick include the blank page, right? And you untick show in menu and you think link to a copyright. Okay, so you can see that this suddenly changed color, right? So that is now a link. So if you click on that, it will go to a hidden page. Now, of course, the thing is you can't see pages, to edit them. So you would click on this. This will go to a copyright page. We can see that it's blank 2, even though it isn't listed in the menu. So then you can edit these stuff here. Okay. Another thing is, if you wanted, you can actually click show in menu and allow it to be seen in the menu, and that will help you see it for editing. Let's press return here. Obviously it needs to redo there. So where are we now? Way up here. Get rid of this out of there. Yeah. So you can have it there. I'm not really going to cover that too much, because we kind of covered that a little bit already. But you could use this, for example, as like you could have blank 2 set up, show in menu, just so if you need to click on it to see it, you could edit it, and you could have this as a hidden pricing page, for example, or a client page or something like this. And then to hide it from the menu, just untick show in menu, and once include blank 2 page is ticked, excuse me, that page will be generated even though you can't see it from the front of the website. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is the contact page. The contact page by default has a form on it. Now this is a PHP form, which means that your site needs to have PHP built in, and it needs to support mail, and it needs to support reply to. It is a bit finicky, I'm not going to lie to you. It works on most sites, but there are sites it doesn't work on at all. And if you can't fill in your own email address and click send and get the email to you, well, then it just doesn't work on your site. Then there's no point in frustrating yourself trying to make it work, because there's a good chance that you won't make it work. Then in this case, you have another option here, which you can turn off show contact form, and you can go show contact, show contact details, and then you can have name, email, and you can put all of this stuff in here. Fax it, MySpace, Twitter, etc., etc. Your own stuff. and all of the settings for that are in the section here. So you can have, for the form part, you can add in the form information here, and then for the email that's used for a form, you enter it in here. And then for the other things like your phone number, your mobile number, fax number, you would enter manually in here. There is an option here, you can see these little symbols. You can also choose to have them in as text instead, but you actually need to have stuff entered in for them to work. I think it's better just to use the icons, it looks better. You have a couple other little options as well in the menu. You can swap the home and the about pages, and you can swap external links, because you have two external links that you can use as well as the galleries. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to start talking about the galleries themselves next. So let's look at setting up the galleries themselves. Now we know that we have a certain number of images and we have one collection, so we need to split them across those images. So if I'm just going to go out to library again for a second, to the grid, and I can see here that from 1 to 10 are landscape images, and from 11 to 22 or 21 are nice pictures of pretty girls, and then the remaining images up to 29 are just the general stuff. So those are the numbers I'm going to use. So I'm going to use 10, 11 and 9 or 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So back to web, and I'm going to literally put those numbers in for the sites themselves, or for the. So we do 10 for the first gallery, 11 for the second gallery, and 8 for the third gallery. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get them names now as well. So gallery 1 is going to be landscape. Gallery 2 is going to be ladies, and gallery 3 is going to be editorial. Now of course we can change the names here, so they don't have to be gallery 1, 2 or 3, but we're just going to leave them as that. The index image is if we are using an index page for the home page, which we are, and that's the image it's going to show. So 1 is fine for the landscapes, and so we need to have something that's greater than 11 for 2, so let's put in 13, and then I'm going to put in, finally, for 3 I'm just going to put in 24, say, which is just in the middle of that set. So now if I actually click on home, that should show those images there. So we can see those images are now showing as the index images. So that's pretty much it. Now if you are using a text area, you would enter some text here, and the way that works is if we're going to jump down here for a second, down to our output settings, and we have this option here called C motion. Now we've already seen if we click on these galleries images that it'll automatically scroll. That's done with the C motion, and you can choose to auto scroll it or keep scrolling when the mouse moves away anyway. Now if we turn that off, it just becomes a manual scrolling bar where you manually scroll. And then if we then go back to our gallery settings, and we can opt to have gallery text, include gallery text, you can see we now have some text area here which you can now enter. So you can have a headline and some text about the actual gallery itself if you so choose. Now that's exactly the same for all of the galleries, and you can have up to 7 galleries. So you can have a name, different titles for them, and just to choose the right number of images for each of them. Let's say for example I wanted to have an image show on the home page that I didn't want to have I wanted to show on the home page, but I didn't want to show it in a gallery. What I could do is I could jump out to the grid here for a second. Let's say we're going to choose this image here, right? And I'm going to drag that to the very end. I'll drop it there for now, and I'm just going to pull it down to the end. So that's now the last one. So I don't want that image to show up, so what I need to do is I need to come down here, and I actually need to say that I have 9 images in gallery 1 now, because the number has changed. So 9 images in gallery 1. Okay, and then just to check that in editorial, because that's on the end, that it isn't magically showing up in the end, right? So it's now hidden. Okay, we still have the image available to us. So if I go to home, or rather let's say bio, it'll be easier to see on bio, and I want to choose the very last image on the about page, and I would say that's image 29. So you can see I now have this image showing here, but it's not going to show in any of the other galleries. So that's how you would create extra images like that. So if you had 30 images that you wanted to spread out, and you wanted to have different images then for the about page and your home page and the contact page, for example, you would do that by that method. Jumping down again to the output settings. Again, we've mentioned some of the stuff. These are just controls for C motion. But I'm going to do quickly is mention image settings. Quality is the quality of the image. 70 is a good balance. Metadata is whether it contains all of the metadata information or your copyright only. Copyright only will make the images smaller and load faster. And then watermarking just uses the watermarking facility in Lightroom. So for example, I could have this one here instead, so you can have a text-based one instead of, sorry, a graphic-based one rather than a text-based one. The other thing you can do is, if you are using C motion, if you come to the end, you get this end of gallery message which you just saw flash there. You can turn it off if you want, or you can change the text to whatever you like. You can also change the height and width of your photos here. They are constrained to each other, so like even though this is at 500, if I was to jam the height up, it wouldn't make any difference because of the fact they're constrained. But if I had a really long image, I could set the height at 333 and then I could make the photo width really wide, and that will allow a long image to stretch higher and higher until they're all balanced, which is good if you've got panoramic images. Sharpening is just the standard Lightroom sharpening. You've got a high, medium or low. You've got a right to click disable option, and you've got IE8 Google code, which is going to be out of date soon, but it's just the standard IE8 code from Google itself. So that's just basically how you can set up. The last thing that you will obviously need to do is you need to get the stuff out, and that's done through the standard FTP server. Now these are Lightroom's internal settings, so are covered in most other places, but you would, like, let's say for example, you click here and you go edit, and you put in like whatever your username and password in your FTP. The server path is literally where it shows up on the website. So server path, if it's blank, it'll be in the root folder. Click cancel. Normally I would click on the export button, that way it's exported to a folder, and then I would manually FTP up myself. I just find that a dedicated FTP program is a bit more robust than Lightroom's FTP, which can be a little bit finicky. So that's pretty much creating your website and getting your website online then using LRB Portfolio.